You say you're fine, but deep down, it still hurts, doesn't it? Some nights, the silence is louder than ever. You don't cry every day now, but sometimes, out of nowhere, it aches. Not just because you lost them, but because you lost a part of yourself that believed in that love. And that's okay. You're not broken. You're healing. And this is where we begin, with truth, with softness, and the quiet reminder that you deserve a love that stays. You stared at the ceiling again last night, didn't you? The clock hit 3:17 a.m. and you were still wide awake. Not because of coffee, not because of stress from work, but because of that one name that keeps echoing in your chest, like a ghost who forgot to leave. You whispered to yourself, I should be over it by now, but you're not. And that hurts even more. You tried everything to forget. You deleted the photos, blocked them on social media. You even erased the chat history as if that could somehow erase the memories too. But what do you do when the real battlefield isn't your phone, it's your heart? You find their favorite song playing at the coffee shop. You smell a scent that used to cling to their jacket. You laugh at something and instinctively turn to share it. And then remember, they're not there anymore. You're not weak for feeling this way, you know. You're just human. And heartbreak doesn't follow a deadline. I know you've had moments where you sat in the shower, hoping the water would wash away not just the tears, but the aching loneliness inside you. Or those mornings when getting out of bed feels like moving a mountain, not because you're lazy, but because joy feels heavy now, like it left with them. You keep wondering, were we not enough? Did I do something wrong? Why didn't they fight for me the way I fought for them? Those questions haunt you at night, and silence doesn't answer them kindly. Silence lets your overthinking do the talking. There's a version of you that existed before this pain. She laughed without hesitation. She looked in the mirror and didn't doubt herself. She believed in love like a child believes in stars. And now, that version of you feels so far away. But I promises he's still there, buried under the rubble maybe, but not gone. You loved them deeply. And that's not something to be ashamed of. You gave your heart in its purest form. You showed up. You were present. You hoped. You tried. And maybe they just didn't know how to hold something that real. But here's what no one tells you about heartbreak. It's not just the loss of a person. It's the death of a future you imagined. The rituals, the habits, the silly little inside jokes. It's grieving something invisible. So if your chest still tightens when someone mentions their name, if you still scroll past certain songs because they sting, if you cry on random Tuesday afternoons, that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you loved sincerely. There will be people who say, just move on. It wasn't meant to be. You deserve better. But sometimes those words feel like salt, not healing, because they don't sit with you in the dark. They don't see how hard you're trying to hold yourself together. But I do. And I want you to know, right now, in this exact moment, you are not alone. This is the part of the story no one wants to talk about. The part where you're healing but still hurting. Where you're trying to move forward but something keeps pulling you back. But hold on, stay with me. Because in the next part, I'll walk with you through why it hurts so much, not just emotionally, but scientifically. You'll understand that you're not crazy for missing someone who hurt you. You're not too sensitive for crying months after the breakup. You're just wired to love deeply. And love, when it breaks, leaves chemical cracks in our soul. Let's explore that next N together. Let's begin with something that might surprise you. Your brain doesn't know the difference between emotional pain and physical pain. That's right. When someone breaks your heart, the same regions of your brain light up as if you were physically injured, burned, cut, hit. To your mind, heartbreak is not just emotional. It's an open wound. There's a part of your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex. It plays a role in detecting pain, especially social pain, like rejection or abandonment. And when the person you love walks away, this area goes into overdrive. That's why your chest feels tight. That's why your appetite disappears. That's why you feel like you're going crazy. You're not. You're just chemically heartbroken. But that's not all. Let's talk about dopamine ether feel-good chemical. When you're in love, your brain floods with it. Love becomes a kind of emotional addiction. You crave their presence, their voice, their touch like a drug. And when they leave, your brain goes into withdrawal. That's why you keep checking your phone, even though you know they won't text. That's why you dream about them, even though your mind is tired of missing them. That's why every memory feels like a sharp edge. You're not weak. You're just detoxing from something that once felt like home. Then there's oxytocin bonding hormone. It's released when you cuddle, kiss, or even talk intimately. It creates a sense of connection and security. But after a breakup, that oxytocin link gets severed. And what's left? A gaping hole of longing. You might ask, why do I still want someone who hurt me? Here's the truth. Because your brain doesn't care whether it was healthy or toxic, it only remembers the attachment. You bonded. You trusted. You built rituals around them. Morning texts, evening calls, shared playlists, inside jokes. These weren't just cute things. They were emotional anchors. And now that they're gone, your nervous system is floating in chaos. Another reason heartbreak hurts so deeply is because it threatens your sense of self. You didn't just lose them, you lost the version of you that existed with them. You lost the future you had imagined. You lost the rhythm your days used to follow. It's not just a breakup, it's the death of an entire emotional ecosystem. And then comes the shame. You ask yourself, why wasn't I enough? Why did they stop choosing me? Was I too much or not enough? Let me say this slowly so you can let it sink in. Someone's inability to love you is not proof that you are unlovable. Read that again. They may have walked away, but that doesn't mean your worth walked with them. Your mind may play tricks on you now, rewriting history, making the good times shine and the bad times blur. That's your brain trying to hold on to comfort. It doesn't mean the love wasn't real, but it also doesn't mean you should go back. You see, your brain evolved for connection. We are wired to seek love because love equals safety. So, when love disappears, your brain sounds the alarm danger, even if you're logically better off. That's why heartbreak is so hard to think your way out of. Because it's not just a thought, it's a full-body biochemical storm. But here's the good news, beautiful soul. Your brain can heal. Just like a bone learns how to fuse again, just like skin knows how to grow back, your heart, your emotional brain can relearn peace, joy, and love. It takes time. It takes tenderness. It takes forgiveness, especially for yourself. So the next time you wonder, why am I still crying? Why does it still hurt after all this time? Remember this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are rebuilding. And that is sacred work. In the next part, I want to gently guide you back to yourself, back to the version of you who existed before the pain, back to the truth that you are worthy of love that doesn't leave. We'll talk about how to stop chasing what broke you and how to start reclaiming what was never lost, your worth. You've spent so much time asking what you did wrong. Too much, too emotional, too quiet, too intense, too soft. But let me ask you something gently. What if you weren't too anything at all? What if you were simply yourself raw, real and radiant, and they just didn't know how to love that kind of beauty? You see, not everyone is ready for a heart that feels deeply. Not everyone can hold space for someone who shows up fully. And that's not your fault. That's not your flaw. That's their limit. But somewhere along the way, you started believing that if they left, it meant you weren't lovable. That if they stopped choosing you, you must have been the problem. And so you began shrinking, apologizing, trying to be smaller, softer, easier to love. But baby, listen to me. You were never meant to make yourself less so someone else could stay. They didn't leave because you were too much. They left because they were too little for your kind of love. There is a version of love that does not require you to question your worth. There is a kind of love that doesn't feel like a test. It doesn't come with guessing games or emotional starvation. It doesn't disappear when things get hard. Real love is steady. It sees your wounds and stays. It hears your silence and listens. It holds your fears without using them against you. But to welcome that kind of love, you have to believe you deserve it. And I know that's the hardest part. Because after heartbreak, your mind plays cruel tricks. It replays your mistakes. It highlights your insecurities. It tells you that maybe love just isn't for you. But that's a lie. You are not hard to love. You are just not meant to settle for someone who only loved the convenient parts of you. Your laugh, your light, your softness, those are gifts. Your depth, your loyalty, your ability to feel, that's rare. And just because someone couldn't recognize your worth doesn't mean it wasn't there. It only means they weren't capable of receiving what you offered. So today, I want you to reclaim something. Your story, your softness, your standards. You don't have to become colder just because someone couldn't hold your warmth. You don't have to pretend you don't care just to survive. You're allowed to want something gentle. You're allowed to say, I need more. You're allowed to leave when your heart isn't being held with care. Love is not supposed to leave you feeling unworthy. Love is not meant to break you down. The right kind of love will not make you question your place in someone's life. You deserve a love that looks you in the eye and says, I choose you even when it's hard. I want to understand, not just respond. You're not too much. You're everything I hoped for. And if that kind of love hasn't found you yet, that doesn't mean you're behind. It just means your story is still unfolding. Please don't mistake loneliness for a sign that you're unlovable. Please don't let someone's absence define your value. You are whole, even in your brokenness, especially in your healing. So take off the shame, lay down the guilt. You loved, and that was beautiful. But now it's time to turn that love inward, to pour into yourself what you so freely gave away. Not to become bitter, but to become better. Not to prove them wrong, but to remind yourself you were always enough. In the final part of this journey, I'll offer you 3 simple but powerful ways to begin healing, to soften your grief without erasing it, and to begin writing a new chapter, one breath at a time. Your story isn't over, my love. It's just beginning again with you. Healing doesn't always look like a sunrise. Sometimes it looks like sitting quietly in the dark, choosing not to call them even when your whole body aches to hear their voice. Sometimes healing is invisible, but it's there. Every time you get out of bed, every time you make your own coffee, every time you whisper to yourself, just one more day. So if you're here, still breathing, still feeling, still trying, that is healing. And today, I want to offer you 3 small soul-deep steps. 1. Grieve without shame. Cry if you need to. Scream into a pillow. Write the letter you'll never send. Let the pain move through you like a storm, because storms pass, but silence rots the soul. Grieving is not weakness. It's proof that you dared to love, that you had something real enough to lose. You don't need to stay strong. You just need to stay honest. So if you're still crying at 2 a.m., still listening to songs that remind you of them, still holding on to memories that no longer hold you, that's okay. You are not pathetic. You are not dramatic. You are simply human. You are allowed to fall apart, because falling apart is how the light gets in. 2. Return to yourself. Before them, there was why. You used to have little rituals, remember? The music you danced to when no one was watching. The way you smiled when the sky turned golden. The quiet dreams you never said out loud. Start there. Return to the forgotten parts of yourself. Pick up your journal. Buy yourself flowers. Walk barefoot in the grass. Read books that feel like home. Take yourself on solo dates, not because you're lonely, but because you are worth showing up for. You've been pouring your love outward for so long. Now it's time to bring it back home to you. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are remembering that you've always been enough. 3. Release what was never yours to carry. Let go of the apology you never received. Let go of the what-ifs that haunt your mind. Let go of the idea that love has to hurt to be real. You do not need to carry their silence. You do not need to carry their inability to love you. That is not your burden. That was never your fault. It's time to stop asking, Why didn't they fight for me? And start asking, why did I keep fighting for someone who surrendered so easily? Letting go is not about forgetting. It's about making room for peace, for newness, for love that stays. Forgive yourself for all the times you stayed too long, for all the chances you gave, for believing in potential instead of reality. You were not naive. You were hopeful, and that is still beautiful. And now, a final whisper just for you. You made it! Through sleepless nights, through days when breathing felt heavy, through moments when you doubted your own heart, you made it here, and that alone is everything. So to you, who still feels tender, to you who still misses them sometimes, to you who wonders if the pain will ever end, it will. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day you'll wake up and the ache won't be the first thing you feel. You look in the mirror and see someone not broken, but becoming. You'll smile again, love again, live again, because you were never meant to stay in the chapter where they left. Your story goes on, and you are the main character now. You deserve a love that feels like coming home, not one that makes you beg at the doorstep. You are not what someone left behind. You are what someone will search their whole life to find. Take your time. Heal at your own pace. And whenever you forget your worth, come back to this voice. Come back to this moment. Come back to you. The end. But for you, it's just the beginning.